Hi and welcome to this video on planning prior to the meeting. The corporate culture today is such that meetings are held on a very regular basis. Very often, time is also lost because the meetings actually don't give the solutions that they were held for. Why does this happen? Is it because the people didn't participate well or they went out of focus? No, the reason is it wasn't planned well. Now, in this particular video, I will take you through steps in how do you plan and ensure that the meeting is focused and get an insight into the meticulous way of making a comprehensive agenda. At the end of this video, you will be able to explain the process of preparing an agenda. So now let's take a look at how is this planning going to take place. Now, first of all, meetings have to be planned in advance. Only then they will be successful. So, before planning a meeting, how can you go about the entire process? You have to get the people who are involved in the meeting first to come ahead and have discussion. Like we said, there is IM or instant messaging, there is memo, there are so many different ways or inter-office communication tools available for us, using which we can actually plan the matters that we want to discuss, so that eventually when we all sit for a meeting, only focused points are taken up. So now let's take a look at the steps in planning a meeting. So these steps in planning a meeting are very crucial in terms of the type of meeting I'm going to have and the number of participants. Now let's take the number of participants. If it is a smaller group, the kind of meeting you will have will be very different. Whereas if it's a larger group, you may have to look at different ways of conveying your information. On a one-on-one meeting, maybe I can write in a pad and show the person across. But when it comes to a larger group, I may have to use a presentation or maybe some kind of board or chart. So all this has to be kept in mind before we call for the meeting. Then preparing the purpose or agenda. Now the purpose or agenda becomes crucial so that we stay on focus. Now an agenda will be prepared such that the people attending the meeting know what the meeting is being held for and do not stray from the topic of discussion. So now that we have spoken about agenda, let's take a further look into the agenda. Now it is an ordered sequence of items that are discussed, is the general definition of an agenda. But what are the actual objectives? One is the agenda is actually sent to the participants. So first of all, you need to make them familiar with the topics that need to be discussed. Now this is needed so that they get some background information, or if they have clarification, those discussions can be taken up well before the meeting. Indicate the knowledge expected from participants. Maybe the participants need to read up something before they come for a meeting. So the agenda will kind of give them a certain amount of information as to what kind of knowledge levels are required to have fruitful discussions at the meeting. Indicate the outcome the participants expect. So at the end of it, there will be, okay, what is the action intended and what is the action that has to happen, by when it has to happen. So once all these indications are given to the participants, you can expect a very active participation and some good outcome from the meeting. The agenda has to include the time, venue and duration of the meeting. It is very important so that the people keep themselves free at that time, the ones who have to attend the meeting, and they know exactly for how long they will be at the meeting. It contains a list of participants. Normally this is optional. Some companies do list out participants, some companies don't. So here normally we list out who is participating, what are they in charge of, and what is expected from each of these participants. The background information with regard to what is the matters being discussed, what is the issue on hand, all this and whatever information is required to support this discussion. A list of items and goals as to what is the action intended, by when should it be achieved, all these will be listed in the agenda. Advanced preparation by participant. So if the participant has to prepare or has to gather some knowledge before coming and sitting and discussing at the meeting, even this will be mentioned. So let's take a good look at a format which is coming up. In this meeting agenda form, The meeting agenda, the first thing is the workplace specific training. So that is what the agenda or the plan or purpose for the meeting is. You will notice that the next is the date is given. Please notice the date format. It is June 01, 2016. The time and the place. You have to be very specific about the place and ensure that it is well equipped to conduct the meeting. The next is how an agenda could be. So you have the first column listing the serial number of the events to be discussed, the item or the particulars in the second column, the presenter, who will be handling that particular item and what is the approximate time. Now, when we get this specific, then for example, Mr. Joe Davis will know that he has 10 minutes and he will plan well in advance so that his presentation lasts just 10 minutes and does not exceed the same. Key points discussed in this video. Meetings need to be planned in advance to be useful. The successful meetings have 2 basic steps to be followed. Agenda is an ordered sequence of items to be discussed in a formal meeting. It is important that this agenda is prepared in a very clear format and sent out to the people who are supposed to attend the meeting well in advance. How can you use all this information? Types of business meetings will help in identifying what is the meeting required and how would you have the previous planning discussions, or what is the kind of material that you need to send out. So once you know all these things, you can ensure that you would follow all these steps before you call for a meeting and ensure that at the end of the day that meeting has been successful.